Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me again with our next series in our series of webinars. Now, I've got a couple of little clues today to give our viewers some idea about where I am. So I'm sat here with a little teddy on my lap, and I'm also in front of a place that is usually a bustle of activity, which is the tuck shop. Because today, ladies and gentlemen, we're filming from Rank Weston, which is our junior boarding house. And I'm really delighted to be joined today by Shaun Greenwood, who is our head of juniors. Now, although we are definitely one school from age 7 to 18, the juniors run slightly different to the senior school, and you're really the expert here, so really glad that I can pick your brains a little bit. Can we just start by asking a little bit about you, Shaun? So you've been here, this is your second year. We started at the same time.
Yes.
What drew you to Royal Alexandra and Albert?
I think what drew me to Royal Alexandra and Albert was the community aspect of it. I think when I looked from the outside in, when researching the school, it had a real sense of community. And the fact that it was a junior school that led into a senior school all the way up to A level, I felt as though being able to have children who perhaps enter at some point, possibly year 3, ideally year 3, and travelling through either to finish their GCSEs or ideally A levels, to be able to be part of that journey and then ultimately observe that perhaps as a junior school as they progress into the senior school was something which I haven't had the opportunity to do, and it was a challenge for me in order to instill a number of values and worth ethics which could have a lasting impact long term in their education.
Absolutely. Now, we work very closely together on the senior leadership team, and we often meet to talk about particularly academics in the juniors, and we meet with the pastoral deputy to talk about that area. On a sort of day-to-day basis, what do you see the seniors around juniors? Do you see the juniors around seniors? What does that look like?
I think the junior school is part of the senior school, but we are our own smaller version of it. I think the nature of being a junior school is we have smaller children, so we have our own playground, we have our own entry and pick-up point. The juniors will cross paths with the seniors, which I think is lovely because often there are siblings, so they get to see their siblings. There's often times where parents will be collecting or dropping off a range of age children, so it could be junior school and senior school. They will interact at lunchtime at times, but predominantly the time where they will interact will be in activities at some point during the day. Ultimately after school, but we do try and keep them as a junior school just to keep them safe, and also it can be quite overwhelming for a year 3 to be next to a year 10, 11, 12 or 13.
Because they get very tall in seniors, don't they?
They get very tall in seniors. They get tall in year 6, but they get particularly tall in seniors.
So what does a typical day look like, from dropping off, what lessons the children do? How does that pan out?
Well, I think one of the things which we'll probably allude to is that one of the aspects of our school which is hugely popular is the extended day. So parents can drop off from 7:30 so that they can have breakfast.
To the house?
To the house, but more often to breakfast, to the dining room. And they'll have breakfast there, and we have a large proportion of children will share breakfast with the boarders. They are treated as boarders. And then they will go back to the house with the house staff and then be walked up to school for around about 8:20, and we have an 8:25 whistle in the morning. Now at that point the children will line up in their forms, and this is where we become a more traditional primary school. Right. So they go into a form teacher or a class setting, and in that setting they will be taught their curriculum subjects, their core curriculum subjects, so literacy and numeracy, often science and histories and geography, although we call those topic. But we have the best of both worlds. We really do in this school, because we have access to senior school staff and specialist lessons and specialist classrooms, and those can be anything from food tech, which is hugely popular as you can imagine, all the way through to drama, to music, to sport, to PE, to swimming. And we make use of those throughout the day, and that timetable is structured alongside the senior school. Now, it's important, because we're using senior school classrooms, that the juniors feel safe and they feel secure. So the first half term, particularly for year 3 and some year 4s, or any new joiner through the school, will be that those children will have a buddy, and they'll be escorted to those rooms initially. But you'll find that one of the things is independence. They gain independence. I think being the type of school we are, they do. So that day will then end at 3:35, and at 3:35 they either can be collected or they'll rejoin the boarding house back here, and they'll start accessing activities from 4. And at 4 o'clock it's a buzz of activity here. I think last count there are 140 activities to choose from, and that can go all the way through, and parents will be able to collect up until 7 o'clock at night.
So do the juniors, we've talked a little bit about senior boarding. For the juniors have prep? Do they have prep time, homework?
I think one of the key with all students, and you all know this, is the routine.
Yes.
And so the juniors again will have prep from 5:30, and they will have dinner first, and then they'll have either flexi boarding or boarding prep, and that is a great facility for us to have. It's here in the house, or we do use some of the classrooms up in the school, and that will run normally for either half an hour to 45 minutes, and then they will then have some downtime.
Absolutely. I think it's really interesting what you're saying there, because I imagine that one of the fears that parents might have is, I mean, this is a beautiful site, but it's also massive. And what you're saying there is the children move around the site, but in a very controlled way, that the juniors don't just get abandoned, they get walked to places. Whereas the seniors maybe do that by themselves. With juniors, you've got more staff intervention.
I think the key here is a learning journey.
Yeah.
And one of my aims in my role is very much to keep the children safe. We have an incredible safeguarding team here, along with all the different policies and procedures we put in place. But from year 3 through to year 6, it's a learning journey, and we try and modify the expectations on children and the freedom we give them. So up until year 6, what we'd like to do at year 6 is start to prepare them and perhaps step back a little bit and allow them to move around the site, if safe, between lessons and between activities, so it prepares them for their step into the senior school in year 7.
That transition.
But in year 3 and 4, obviously, we need to monitor their movement quite closely for the reasons you just said.
So one of the challenges that I wonder if you could talk about how you overcome this is we don't necessarily have a model, whether you're a boarder or a flexi, where the parents are dropping at the school gate and the year 3 teachers coming out to get them. So how do you make sure that our parents know what's going on and how their children are doing?
I think if we're talking about communication, it's absolutely key in any school, and particularly the school. We have a very good system of a newsletter which goes out every week.
Right.
We have a junior secretary who will email parents all the details they need. We also have an online system for booking in co-curricular activities, which parents can have an app on their phone or their device, which they can then see those children that they've booked into that club. They can also phone the school in school time, but fundamentally as boarders, the wonderful staff that run Rank Western will always communicate changes or anything in particular to parents, and parents often will ring up or email the boarding house and the school just to ensure that everything's in place. If there's any changes from the school as far as activities having to be cancelled, then that will be communicated by email.
Yeah.
And if it's in advance, then it would obviously be communicated by newsletter, by other means. But the key thing I think is on a daily basis, parents have become very used to communicating both with the junior school and the Rank Western. I think it's key to say that as a boarding school, we have to have very tight communication between the boarding house and the school, and we do with regards to school, and there's a lot of cross.
And you meet weekly with the house,
we meet
don't
weekly.
you?
The head of Rank Western and I meet at least weekly. There are staff meetings which they are part of. There's house meetings. I think at this point, one of the beauties of the junior school is we actually have 3 members of staff currently who work in the junior school who are residents here in Rank Western.
They actually live in one of the flats up here, don't they? Yes.
So the children get to see them in the classroom, but also in boarding. So there's a sense of pastoral care there, and that also helps the communication, having staff who actually work in school but live here.
So we're actually filming from Rank Weston today, and currently we're right in the middle of the house. The house is a co-ed house. We have boys that live on one side of the house, and then it's kind of like a mirror image, and girls on the other side of the house. Now, in this common room, as I said, we're by the tuck shop. Behind the camera, we have our games console areas. We have movie night, and I can see the movie theatre just kind of to the left of me over there. We've got toy area, and we also have an outside space where the children go out and play football, etc. In terms of creating that sense of community in the house, obviously I think it's a very warm, it's a lovely place to sit in actually on an afternoon, but what other things happen in the house to create that sense of community?
I think the key is, as boarders, we get a range of different nationalities, and one of the things which we have is a very experienced, wide range of staff. We have staff who have been here a long time, we have new members of staff, and I think they all bring a sense of their own identity to it. One of the things which I think the house is very proud of is themed nights, whether that be meals or activities, and this will often be to do with a different nationality or a different culture, and that will often be a student or a group of students who perhaps from that country. It really gives them a sense of kind of belonging, that they're part of this house. The other thing is just a sense of leadership, a sense of togetherness, and that behind you I think there are some great listening teams.
You're at the birthday board there.
The birthday board, as well as having leadership roles, as I mentioned, we will have committees. So there's food committees, there's activity committees, there are theme night committees, and it's really year 3 all the way to year 6 students can sort of put themselves forward to be part of that committee, and together they plan these things and then run them, and there's a real sense of ownership of it. They'll have kind of traditional events. Mr. Loeffler's toasted sandwich evening is a very, very popular one. It happens to coincide with my duty night, so I enjoy that. There's a dance studio around the corner, so often the children will go off and make up dances and perform them. As an academic myself, and I know that you Mrs. Mitchell, will like this, one of the things which I absolutely love seeing, and I see it often when I come down here in the evenings, at around about 6:30, 7 o'clock, these sofas often will have staff members with 3 or 4 children sat down, and the member of staff is reading them a story. And I think that model is a home away from home type model, that we want to kind of have that sense of family that we sort of replicate here, that they might well be getting at home when they go home.
Absolutely, and I've seen they have their kind of little reading journals that pupils get from reception, and we carry that on here. And actually, I think that's where the school leadership model really comes in, because you know we have sixth formers that come in and read with the children in Rank Weston. Obviously, that's brilliant for the sixth formers, but the little ones down here love that as well. I also love the fact that, as you mentioned, we do have international pupils that come here who speak different languages, and we have children from the senior houses that come and help those children to maintain their own language, but also to learn their English as well.
Absolutely.
And I think finally, I mean, one of my favourite parts of the junior school is when I get to meet the head boy and head girl. Obviously, we have a prefect system in the seniors, and the prefects wear gowns, but the head boy and head girl of juniors are very proud because they sport half gowns, and I think that's something that it's a very serious role in juniors, and I think it's something that they have a lot of responsibility, and you really see that as the top echelon of what they achieve in juniors.
Absolutely.
So we've talked a lot about community and how we keep the children happy and safe, and I think probably the final thing it would be nice to touch on is how we can make sure that we deliver excellent academic standards. I mean, what is the process to ensure that the children achieve well, given that we take a range of abilities, and how do we support them through the SATs?
I think first and foremost, whichever year they join, and we do get an intake in year 3, and then we have either boarders or flexi boarders joining throughout the year, is that we have high expectations of every student, regardless of their ability when they join us. And when I say high expectations, you know, we want them to be the best that they can be. One of my overriding visions is to inspire a love of learning. And I think as a school we want to inspire a love of learning, a sense of being creative, a sense resilience and perseverance towards it. As far as aspiring high academically, we have enrichment in every classroom and enrichment in every lesson. So there are activities in addition to the planned work. If students need support, we have an incredibly wide and experienced learning support team. We have learning coaches who will work with a student or a group of students if there is a need in a particular area. But in addition to the academics, I think we need to mention pastoral and emotional, and we also have that support network through the teachers and the support staff who will support the emotional needs of the children, which often can have a significant impact academically to raise self-esteem, to raise confidence. In order to get through to the SATs, I think it's a learning journey. It's about building and building on key skills in order to allow the children to grow as they move through the year group. So when they get to year 6, they're equipped with the skills, both academically and with their self-confidence, to be able to do their best. And as I say in my assemblies, I only will ask them to do their best. And we have huge amounts of reward systems and celebrations assembly for recognising effort. Because I think effort, which ties in with perseverance, is key with our junior school. And we do have some fantastic SATs results, and often those are students who have shown those particular qualities in their learning journey throughout the junior school. And as I mentioned at the beginning, that is one of the beauties of watching them move into year 7 and go on. And to finish that aspect is often when I am doing open days and my head boy and head girl are in their gowns very proudly, often the head boy or head girl or one of the prefects in year 12 or 13 have been a junior and perhaps have been able to share with me their experience of junior school and their learning journey, and how they just kept going. And that's just wonderful to see, really is.
I absolutely agree with you. I think at any age, and particularly in the juniors, if we have children that want to come to school, they run through the gates, they're desperate to kind of get into their lessons, to get into the stuff that's going on in the house. If they're happy, they'll do well academically. I really believe in that. Thank you so much for talking to us today. If our parents have any other questions that maybe we've not been able to cover, as always, please drop a note into the comments section, and one of our admissions team monitor that, and they'll be able to have a look and get back to you, and maybe put you through to the junior school who can answer any of your questions as well. Next week, I hope you'll be able to tune in again when my fellow deputy head, Joe Gale, is going to be talking to us a little bit about how parents can encourage their children to aim for more. Thank you very much.